We started with a campaign against illegal logging in national parks, and illegal logging became a big issue after that, yeah, and became the main priority for the government to tackle. And several years after when we launched our campaign, there was this initiative called FLEGT, which is Forest Law Enforcement and Governance, for Asian countries, yeah, in Bali, that resulted in Bali Declaration, in which the governments realized that they have the problems of illegal logging, that it's not like one country but trans-border crime, yeah. So that's actually the first time when we realized that we have or we can influence our governments by providing knowledge from the ground to them, because before our campaign there never was like a big news on illegal logging or forest destruction in Indonesia, even though at that time Indonesia has the highest rate of deforestation due to like forest cutting, forest fires and everything, but never on who behind that, and you know, the 5W1H thing. For Indonesia, I have to say that we were very lucky, because when we started our campaign, it was during the the changes of regime, if you like, from the new order era, yeah, the authoritarian government, to the so-called reform era. So we were on the process towards democracy, if you like. So the new government at that time have pledged to create like clean government, you know, fight against corruption, nepotism, blah, blah, blah. So we were lucky because of the political changes in our country. What we want is more or less provided by the government, even though it's not easy because it's just like very recent, yeah, at that time. So what we do to seize, if you like, the space, is to just provide the government with like hard evidence that they cannot deny or they cannot say no to, and like, this is the problem, what are you doing? You know, you have to do this and this and this and this, otherwise this kind of issue will continue to exist. It wasn't easy, I have to say, because at that time, and even until quite very recently, the relationship between civil society and the government and the private sectors is like this, yeah. So civil society are perceived to be like, they just bashing, no solution, you know, criticizing, you know. But I think it is actually one of the biggest challenges that we have to overcome. Is not really about creating space, but maintaining that space in terms of how to get government and private sectors understand where we come from. Because one of the challenges is to get the other stakeholders to understand us and to really see that what we are trying to do is to help them, really, you know, to work with them to change things in our country, you know. And some of them, of course, must be held accountable for what they did. But in the bigger picture, what we want is like improve our country, you know, in terms of better governance. During the VPA negotiation, in Indonesia, we have like this series of consultation workshops, right? So, but like I said, because of this perception from other stakeholders that, oh, please don't let this civil society representative get into the meeting, because it will get very long discussion, debates, blah, blah, blah. So we, Telapak at that time, suddenly we didn't get any invitation whatsoever. So I was like, I just couldn't accept it. So it just get crashed. And I asked the Director General himself in that meeting, why wasn't I invited to this meeting? So he apologized, it's just like administrative error, la la la. But the second time and the third time, it happened again. And every time I brought it up, and he said that, okay, from now on I will make sure that every consultation meeting will have representative from civil society to attend. And actually, you have taught me about how the consultative meeting should be done, because I said that to him, that how could you expect to have a result that can be accepted by all stakeholders while you like exempting one stakeholder from the process. First, I think because I've been there, and I think it's very important to bear in mind that the other stakeholders, especially from the private sectors, they will not like you. So it's very important to get their buy-in. And sometimes civil society, even for me and my colleagues in Indonesia, we want to have this like very high goals, but in a VPA negotiation, in a like multi-stakeholder forum, sometimes we cannot get what we want in one go. So you have to aim very reasonably, yeah. So have a workable goals and work from that, build on that, because sometimes it happened also in Indonesia when we have we want this position and we won't budge, but then the process got stuck and we won't go anywhere. So sometimes a negotiated or compromised position is needed to move forward, but you have to be able to set a boundary so that your integrity will not be harmed in that process. Now that the VPA is signed between Indonesia and the EU, we actually just starting to really, do the work, if you like, because now is the preparation stage before the full implementation, and we still need a lot of work to do in terms of ensuring that the timber legality assurance system works for all the product scope covered in the VPA. And it will, I don't know, if the government still has its political will to push this forward, I think it might be safe to say 1 to 2 years to really be able to prepare for everything before the actual FLEGT licensed timber entering the Europe from Indonesia. First is that knowledge is power. And if you have more knowledge than your government, it means that you are on better position than them. So you can, you've got the upper hand, and if you can present that knowledge in a way that the government don't feel threatened, or on the other way, they feel like they get supports from your knowledge, and it is a very good way to start relationship, if you like, good working relationship with the government. And I think one of the lessons that I learned is that persistence in pursuing open dialogue with government and other sectors, especially private sectors, which is very difficult to do for us civil society, yeah. It's very key, but you have to swallow it, even though sometimes you just like, I cannot do this, but you just have to do it. And eventually it will come, everyone, because of you are forced to meet or to discuss in like very consistent routine, and eventually even though you don't always agree with each other, but you understand where they coming from, the reasons, the arguments, and it gives you better basis to reach like a common position. So I think that is one of the lessons that I've learned from this journey in VPA negotiation.